And it being 12:45, I call matters of public interest. Senator Xenophon.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. I note that there will be an urgency motion later today in relation to submarines, and because I will not be here, I wanted to indicate my support for that motion moved by the opposition and to strongly support that motion. I will not make a long contribution, but I want to make it clear that I support the opposition's motion. This is of critical importance, and we need to put this in perspective. On the 8th of May 2013, the then Shadow Minister for Defence, Senator David Johnston, said during a visit to Adelaide, and I will quote, "We will deliver those submarines from right here at ASC in South Australia." Now, why ASC? Right across Australia, there is only one place that has all of the expertise that's necessary to complete one of the most complex, difficult and costly capital work projects that Australia can undertake. It's ASC here in Adelaide. He went on to say, "The Coalition today is committed to building 12 new submarines here in Adelaide, and we will get that task done. And it is a really important task, not just for the Navy but for the nation, and we are going to see the project through and put it very close after force protection as our number one priority if we win the next federal election." Fast forward to today, and we seem to be in a parallel universe in relation to those previous statements. Now, I've said before, I actually have enormous regard for Senator Johnston. He is a decent and capable man. I believe he wants to do the right thing by the nation, but we are hearing from all sorts of inconsistent messages from the government as a whole in relation to this. And this motion that will be moved later this afternoon by the opposition is even more important and more timely given what is happening to manufacturing in this country with the impending departure of General Motors, Holden, Ford and Toyota as original equipment manufacturers, as car makers in this country. Although I hasten to add, those three companies, and particularly General Motors, all of them will still have a strong dealer presence, so it's important that they are supported through their dealerships as well. I have here a list from the Parliamentary Library of 16 separate public statements by now Prime Minister Abbott and now Defence Minister Johnston, Senator Johnston, made from September 2012 to September 2013 about building submarines in Adelaide. My concern is that there has been this ambiguity, perhaps backsliding from June, in relation to naval shipbuilding in Australia in general and the future submarine project in particular. The Prime Minister last week refused to rule out a foreign build for the future submarine project, and that concerns me. And there's one way that this can be fixed up. It can be clarified very quickly as to what needs to be done to make that good, the commitment made before the last election. In June, the government made a fundamentally wrong decision to exclude the entire Australian shipbuilding industry from the tender for the Navy's 2 new supply ships. The work is worth up to $2 billion, but the decision means that the Australian government will send that money offshore to firms either in South Korea or Spain. It is an insult, Madam Acting Deputy President, that Australian manufacturers, Australian shipbuilders, the ASC and others did not even have an opportunity to be part of that tender process. Instead of spending the money in Australia employing skilled Australian workers in their thousands, we are exporting jobs overseas in terms of a key national strategic issue in terms of our shipbuilding. It does not make sense to me that Australian companies did not even have a chance to be part of a competitive tender process. It was a gobsmackingly stupid decision by the government, and it must be reversed. But it was also a very, very concerning decision that I hope will not act as a precedent. Media speculation, bolstered by the government's public statements, has only increased fears that the future submarine project will be shipped offshore, for instance to Japan, which recently signed a military technology sharing agreement with the government. The future submarine project could cost between $12 and $36 billion, depending on which design option is chosen. It is a crucial project to sustain the employment of thousands of South Australians and indeed nationally, and just as importantly of national strategic significance. South Australia is suffering a historic deindustrialisation that requires a proper policy response from the federal government. The Productivity Commission last month predicted the end of the Australian car making will lead to a loss of 40,000 jobs nationally, and I believe that is conservative. About half of these job losses could be felt in South Australia. You can add to that more further manufacturing job losses on the scrap heap nationally if the federal government does not include Australian industry in its future naval shipbuilding plans. And that is why I will work with all my colleagues in the Senate, all of them, from the opposition, with the government, including, of course, the Nationals and the Australian Greens, Palmer United Party, Senator Madigan, Senator Ricky Muir from Motor Enthusiast Party, and of course the man right in front of me, Senator Bob Day from Family First, a fellow South Australian. And can I just say, on the record, I know that Premier Jay Weatherill accused Senator Day of being an enemy of the state. I think that he doesn't look anything like Will Smith to me. In respect, that was a Will Smith. I'm not sure if it was Will Smith. Doesn't look anything like Will Smith to me. Senator Day and I will have our policy disagreements, but we will deal with them genuinely and in a civil manner, and I am convinced that Senator Day shares these concerns about jobs in South Australia, and that is why I regard him as a friend that I can work with for jobs in South Australia. So having made those remarks, can I say that I support what the opposition is doing later this afternoon, commend them, commend the work of Senator Kim Carr and also the Shadow Defence spokesperson in relation to Senator Stephen Conroy. We need to get a result for South Australia, and the motion that will be moved later this afternoon is both timely and warranted, and we must heed the warnings inherent in that motion.